Hey, what's up, everybody? Fred Minnick here, and I'm about to review one of my favorite releases of the year. This is probably the best offering that comes out of Indiana, or at least the Ross and Squibb Distillery, aka MGP, and it is the Remus Repeal Reserve. This is comprised of 6% 2007 bourbon, that's 21% rye, 26% 2013 bourbon, 21% rye, 26% 2013 bourbon, 36% rye, 21% 2014 bourbon, 21% rye, and 21% 2014 bourbon, 36% rye. So you are looking at a stellar lineup of bourbon between 9 and 16 years old. But thank you for the transparency on the label. When I started doing covering American whiskey in 2006, there was nothing like this on a label, and how far we have come. Now, this is the part where I do history. So if you want to skip, go ahead and you'll see the number or the timestamp in the comments or the description of where I get to the tasting. But I like to give a little bit of history of the distillery that we are tasting. This is a famous, very important former Seagram's plant, and they stopped being a part of Seagram's in the early 2000s when Pernod Ricard acquired it. Now, Pernod Ricard took what's interesting was when Seagram's got busted up, the feds came in and said, one company cannot just take on Seagram's. It was a part of a whole antitrust thing, so their brands got parceled out and their facilities got acquired, and so Diageo got a lot of the brands, and Pernod Ricard got a lot of the facilities. And that's what happened with the Lawrenceburg, Indiana plant. The brands like Crown Royal went to Diageo, and the Pernod Ricard got the plant. And so that place was a feeder into the blends. Like it made flavor whiskeys for a lot of the blends that Seagram's was doing. And great distillery, but it was never on anyone's radar because it was blended out in other products. When Pernod Ricard got it, they kind of felt like this is like, what do we do with this thing? So they were really trying to focus on the RTD market in Australia especially. And they were just trying to sell their whiskey in bulk for some RTDs, and actually they were pretty excited about that. But then the Australians changed their tax structure, and the Pernod Ricard was like, you know what, screw this, we're not going to deal with it. And Pernod Ricard was trying to sell it, and it just was not moving. This is like 2006, and they're like, you know what, we're not going to sell this. Let's mothball it. So they were about a month away from mothballing the distillery, laying off all of their employees, and just completely stopping operations, period. And these people who had been with this plant for, 20 years, they're about to be jobless. And then came in the parent company of Angostura Bitters, Angostura Rum. You see their products everywhere. Their parent company, CL Financial, comes in, buys them for a mint, and says, you know what? We have an idea with what to do with all this whiskey. There is this growth of craft distillers out there. Everyone's opening a distillery, but no one actually has any whiskey that's any good. So let's sell them our aged rye and bourbon. And sure enough, boy, was that a hit. Now, they renamed themselves Lawrence Distillers Indiana. Horrible name, if you ask me. Horrible name. But so they renamed themselves that, but they were the saviors of so many companies. Like, they were like, you had all these like small distillers that were trying to make things work, but their whiskey was just terrible. This was the time of small barrels before people really knew how to make small barrels work. I've never been against small barrels, but I'm against people who don't know how to use small barrels. And there was just a lot of like tannins and licking fence post type of whiskey. And anyway, they get to they get things rolling, they become very popular within the trade. There's all kinds of shenanigans going on. People claiming they made the whiskey. That works itself out. Like Templeton claimed they made their whiskey in the with a homemade recipe there in Iowa. But it was actually from Indiana. They got sued. Everybody got sued. That's a story for another video. But CL Financial really did a good job of kind of changing the business model for that distillery, and it truly saved it. However, CL Financial was caught up in the big, giant global crisis of 2008, and they had to sell. MGP, which is this kind of like food alcohol manufacturing plant, they're really well known for making food alcohol, doing a lot of like vodkas and things like that for white labeling. I mean, they produce so much stuff that nobody knows anything about. Some of those celebrity vodkas, they were the people making it. And they never wanted any credit. They never wanted to have anything. They never wanted like a consumer-facing brand or anything. They come in, take this distillery over, use that same business model, start experimenting, start trying to create their own brands, and they would eventually acquire a brand from a little guy who's kind of out selling some product in Cincinnati called Remus, named after a criminal, an actual criminal and like murderer, just a horrible human being from the Prohibition era. But he's famous, absolutely famous for being in the whiskey industry, and he would actually sell barrels. It's in my book, Bourbon, the Rise, Fall, and Rebirth of American Whiskey, but he actually sold barrels to Pappy Van Winkle and to Brown Forman. I mean, he did business with everybody in the whiskey world. He was portrayed in the HBO series Boardwalk Empire, if you ever want to go check that out. Anyway, he is so MGP comes in, they kind of shift their focus, they start being transparent, and they start telling the story of their facility. And in 2013, I think it was, I was the very first 2012, I was the very first journalist allowed there to write about them and tell that story. And Greg Metzi was the master distiller then. And, I wrote a big article about him for Whiskey Advocate, and that was a real pleasure to be able to go around there. And it's just such a beautiful facility, great distillery, and they make great whiskey. But here we are now. They've since acquired Luxco. They have become a real behemoth in the space. They're probably, if you want to take a look at them from the overall whiskey world, they're probably about number 6, number 7 in terms of their portfolio. But I think the sky is the limit for them. They have a lot of potential. And I went to their they had a meeting in Denver, and I went to that, and I met with a lot of their sales force and had drinks with their CEO and talked to them about where they are and where they're going. And it's like they have a very different attitude than a lot of the whiskey companies out there. Like, these guys are all about whiskey. Some of these other companies are like about whiskey, but they also want to be, they want to shift over here and there, and they're hiring people from Procter and Gamble. Like, at this company, I get the sense that they take the whiskey far more seriously than a lot of them do. So anyway, I just wanted to give you all a little bit of history, kind of how we got here with this brand. This is their 7th series. So, they started doing this, 2015, 2016 with this limited edition run right here. And so now I'm finally, 10 minutes later, I'm finally going to taste it. I always say this: if you don't like history, if you don't want to learn about whiskey, I'm not the guy to watch. I'm not the guy that's just going to be kicking stuff back. I'm here to teach. I'm here to educate. I'm also here to have fun. But I love teaching people about bourbon. And you don't write books if you don't like that. So I'm very passionate about what I do. All right, so here we go to the tasting. Some nutmeg. I forgot to mention earlier too the price. This is 100 proof and $100. So 100. Okay, nutmeg, brown sugar, little oak, This is a weird-ass note to note, but I get like this Listerine smell. Oh, my God. Now that I'm thinking about Listerine, I can't stop thinking about Listerine. Where did that come from? I could just say it has a medicinal nose, but why say Listerine? Maybe my mouth is secretly telling me I've got some shit in there and I got some bacteria and I need to rinse it out. But my dentist told me, he legit told me that because I drink whiskey, I shouldn't have to use mouthwash. So if you're a dentist, put that in the comment section. Is my dentist just pulling my leg? Or is that real? Swirled around, just spilled a little bit on myself. I swear to God, this is not my first one today, but it's not like my 7th. Maybe my 6th. All right, that Listerine note on the nose got me a little worried. I was a little worried that this was going to be medicinal, like over alcohol forward, but it's actually not. And we're going to go back into this, like figure out that nose one more time. But Listerine has a very particular nose, like the original Listerine, not the minty one. You just know it, and it has that nose, and it's like the 5th or 6th thing you smell, but you smell it. I don't want to smell that. But the palate is definitely all over the mouth, so it's kind of coating. It's not dripping down the jawline. It's tickling the roof of my palate just a little bit, but it hits every inch of the tongue. I get a lot of almond and pecan in this, so it's very nutty. Might maybe even say like a pecan pie, maybe a Derby pie, with a little chocolate in there, a little whipped cream. I mean, it's very good. Those notes are there; they're pronounced, but they're not lasting, so they're not on my tongue for a long period of time. This is good, but it's definitely not the best Remus Repeal I've had. Yeah, it's kind of it's nut forward, hints of chocolate, nutmeg. It's very nice. The finish is short to medium. I don't find this to be the best representation of MGP. I would in fact say some of the MGP products that are out there, they're not owned by them, but they are sourced from them. Like Smoke Wagon has put some stuff out that would blow this out of the water. Even the 6-year-old that they have, I think might be better than this. They just released a 6-year-old this year that is really quite good. And I'd probably be getting a couple Penelope releases over this as well. So, well, this is good. It doesn't matter what I say. People are going to buy it. If this was $60, I would say, you might want to take a gamble on it. But I don't feel like this tastes like a $100 product. I do think that their 6-year-old is better than this. And a lot of the other MGP stuff is out there is better than this. But anyway, that's my take on it. Still a great distillery. Taste for yourself. Listen to me if you'd like, but most importantly, it's about learning your palate and what you like, and listen to those that you respect as much as you want to. That's going to do it for me here on this tasting video. I'm going to be hopping on a plane very soon to go to Key West with some of my members of Club Marzipan. We got a special trip out there to pick a barrel. If you'd like to learn more about Club Marzipan, you can find a link in my description, in this video's description, to learn more. But we do all kinds of fun trips together. We do barrel picks. You get some cool swag here and there. But most importantly, my favorite part is we do monthly tastings together, and just kind of hang out. We We have a lot of fun together. But that's going to do it for this episode, y'all. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you for bearing with me as I got through some cool history. Be safe out there. And remember, vodka sucks unless it's being used to clean up the murder scene of a dead cat. Cheers.